Meanwhile, Russia, paying little attention to all these events, is living through an amusing incident at the Yaroslavsky railway station. She hasn't yet realized that a new reality has arrived. Russia has not understood that the reality of lawlessness has come. It has not yet lost its ability to be surprised, to gasp in amazement. It has not yet settled in, it has not found its footing. But there is no other reality awaiting it for the coming years, perhaps for many long years ahead. And by the way, even Putin's death won't change anything here, because the furies of lawlessness that have been unleashed won't willingly return to their cages. But what happened exactly? Well, we already know that the Russian police have their own basic instinct. This instinct, the basic instinct, is clearly visible when the Russian police try to cross one leg over the other. This instinct is the fear between Czech, the fear of Chechens. And this fear, in general, is piercing and all-powerful. It completely and utterly shuts down the law enforcer, spreading a look of utter and total contentment across his arsenal. Just a simple satisfaction with life, but a deep, fundamental refusal to notice or acknowledge any criminal events happening around him. However, it's not just the police who behave this way. In general, people in uniformity kind of uniform, when they see confident, Caucasian-looking men with beards, all become timid and are ready to immediately apologize for being in the wrong place at the wrong time and for seeing something they shouldn't have. And observant Chechens figured this out long ago, so now they don't bother catching their offenders or enemies in some dark alleyways or basements, right? Now, the process of kidnapping people, which you have to admit is quite a delicate matter. Well, in Russia, it has lost all sense of intimacy, and nowadays people are abducted completely openly. They are briskly folded up and stuffed into the trunk of a car. This exact kind of show took place in the center of Moscow, right under the noses of the police, the station detectives, and the railway officers. But here it must be said that the aesthetics of the abduction were not maintained. At the very least, it was not fully maintained. The unfortunate victim wasn't even wrapped in a carpet. They just dragged him, kicking and screaming, by his arms and legs. And this poor guy was shouting at the top of his lungs across the whole station that he was being taken away into some kind of criminal darkness, and possibly even to his death by people who were definitely not law enforcement. And his cries and futile pleas to call the police had no effect whatsoever. The crowd just giggled, filmed everything, while the police officers studied the ceiling of the station, right where the whole drama was unfolding. And a little later, it became known that, yes, it was Chechens. Yes, they kidnapped an Armenian at Yaroslavsky station who had displeased them. And yes, they took him away to an unknown location. And of course, a very brief statement from the police. We don't have any fools here, so there's no one to look for him. But it must be said that regarding the kidnapping itself, the case is flickering, it gets opened, then closed again. That's with respect to the kidnappers. But in relation to the victim, it will be certain and obligatory. And by the way, it should definitely be clarified that just in case the police tend to be wary and look askance not only at Chechens, but also at Bugulalovs, Orkintsevs, Kemalalovsat, any self-assured, dark-skinned, bearded men from the Caucasus, because no one really knows who is Chechen and who isn't. And here are the details. The character who was so inelegantly in violation of all the rules of kidnapping, so inelegantly abducted by the Chechens, as it turned out, is quite a piece of work himself and an absolutely phenomenal scoundrel. This is a certain Oganessian, also known as Shepikin, also known as Oreg. And already 3 Moscow psychiatric hospitals refused to admit this lively character a few months ago because they were afraid of disturbances, violence against the staff, and everything else this character is notorious for. And this Oganessian is, in general, of course, such a sick person that the only place for him is, well, I don't know, as part of Medinsky's negotiation team in Istanbul, everywhere. Well, I think you're already familiar with his passionate speech. Well, it's obvious that this is pure psychiatry and senility. By the way, Oganessian, himself also known as Shepikhini, is actually close to Medinsky. And it's possible he was even a co-author of that very memorandum about which Zelensky expressed his disapproval. Who is this guy anyway? A few years ago, inspired by this visible, distinct, and easily observable Armenian triumph, and this Armenian triumph undoubtedly exists because we see that it is Armenians who have become the main driving and striking force behind the ideology of the Russian world and have become the chief patriots of Russia, setting all the trends. Well, there's probably no need to list them all. You can picture them yourself. Then, this Oganessian moved into big politics, became a prize winner in the Russia Land of Opportunity competition, and founded the New Russian World Park. But at first, everyone was sure that he was already, that they needed to look for a cold corpse. This wasn't a big disappointment for anyone. Then it turned out that he was alive and beaten up. He complained and talked about how his ears had been smashed with a pistol grip. At the same time, in the very image he presented in this footage of himself, his ears actually look, as is clearly visible, perfectly healthy and pink